Love podcasts, hate nonsense. The PoliticsJOE podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh!
Hello.
Hello.
Ed.
Ollie.
Ava.
Ollie.
Milo.
Ollie.
What do we do now?
You introduced Milo.
Milo, so glad to have you here.
Lovely to be here. As a fellow hater of nonsense. Thank you.
Thank you for making that clear.
Yeah. Thank you.
You'd be surprised though, sometimes we can't put content out because people won't like the beginning.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, they actually stand with the nonces.
Yeah, but that was, this is when he brought on Prince Andrew for an interview. We actually had the interview with him before news night, and then we couldn't put it out because he didn't clap with the...
And that's the worst thing that came out of the interview. I feel like Andrew would clap that. He does have the mind of a child. I think you could...
That's the Lolita thing, right? Do you know, if you stumble into like a Brooklyn bar, like in the last couple of years, you will find a man who looks like he's just come out of East London who will tell you that Lolita was actually a really profound exploration of like a childish mind.
Ah, yeah, interesting. Which is one of those things that might be true, but it feels like a red flag to say. Especially on a first meeting.
Sus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sus.
I like it because then he's basically declaring to me that he's got no sexual interest in me. And then I can relax.
Yeah. I'm having fun this morning. This is great. This is good. Yeah.
Right.
I feel like I'm at the back of maths. That's what this podcast is. Yeah. Political journalism.
Yeah. School, classroom level chat.
Yeah, absolutely. People keep saying we're students. No, we're school children.
You overestimate us.
We're grown adults.
PMQs today.
PMQs.
Prime Minister's questions.
Good one. Best one there's been in a little while.
Do you think?
I think so.
What did you like about it, Ed?
There were a lot of big names in there. Lots of former frontbenchers.
The Prime Minister, famously, he's there.
An ex-Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Ex-Chancellor. Ex-Shadow Chancellor. Anthony Costa from Blue. all the stars were out. Big get. He's always in the gallery. Lee Ryan was busy, shame. But
Which is the one from Blue that had like a real questionable take on 9/11?
I think it was Duncan, because he said that it was not as bad as what they were doing to Wales. Yeah. That's Wales with an H, just to be clear.
Yeah.
He has no opinion on Wales.
So.
The country.
Wales safe from Al-Qaeda, it must be said.
Yeah, Duncan from Blue, what Thatcher did, fine. What they're doing to Wales in the sea, bad.
Boy bands on Twitter, because that's also the same genre as why don't ISIS fight us mano a mano? Do you remember that one?
Who was that?
Brian McFadden, yeah.
Is that the guy with the sword?
No, he was like...
he said no weapons, no bombs, just like man-to-man fists.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like outside Wetherspoons.
Yeah.
And then hilariously, so I then, like the other week, I put like our colleague Tom Usher on this as like a Guardian headline, had it on my story, and the number of people who replied being like, this is why ISIS are such pussies. They'll never fight you man to man. And I was like, I can't believe the volume of replies that say this.
Read Mary Keldor's New Wars thesis, my brother. It's asymmetrical these days.
Britain doesn't have an army, which is a single guy.
You're not so tough without your eye locks and your fruit knife, are you? Come on. See me outside the pub in Stoke-on-Trent. We'll see how tough you are.
That's why they needed to raise defence spending. It's because they need to employ another guy. We don't have an army. We don't have a standing army. Just multiple people in single combat.
Sure, well,
And they'll take out anything, especially ISIL. ISIL even worse than ISIS. They've got like no respect for any historical significance, like in a building. They'll just take it out.
Well, they've not fractured, have they?
I thought ISIL was ISIS.
Yeah.
It's like the next iteration.
May I just say, ISIS, welcome to the left. You're now having factional disputes. Congratulations.
Splitters!
Pleased to have you on board, comrades.
Sean, was it you or me who once said that they'd put like ISIL have no respect for buildings, that they'd put like one of their operations in the Gardens of Babylon if it still existed?
Sounds like something you'd say.
I think you said it actually.
Famously, the worst thing they did, blowing up those buildings.
ISIS.
Yeah.
Yeah. Already accentuated the housing crisis in Raqqa. Terrible. You have not built any new social housing in Raqqa since 2014. Still doing better than us.
So we're all so
Radio
glad.
4, I'm available. Thank you.
Shall we have a clip?
Yeah.
Shall we get a little bit? All right. Let's have a
We pushed the audience.
yeah. Let's have a Prime Minister's question.
I will travel to the US to have discussions with President Trump about the enduring security partnership between our two countries. Mr. Speaker, I'm also delighted that we've announced the first 750 schools to start offering free breakfast clubs. This is our plan for change in action, ensuring every child has the chance to thrive. And Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the whole House will want to join me in thanking Amanda Pritchard for her services as Chief Executive of the NHS England, and I wish her well for the future. This morning, Mr. Speaker, I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Dr. Luca.
Could the Prime Minister tell this House whether the outcome of his budget was by design or by mistake? Did he mean to push 100,000 pensioners into poverty with his own analysis when he removed the winter fuel allowance, or was that a mistake? Did he mean to decimate family farming when he changed the inheritance tax, or was that a mistake? And did he mean to tax GPs, care homes and hospices when he raised NICs, or was that a mistake? Prime Minister, could you tell the House, are these acceptable collateral damage in his path for change, or simply a mistake that need rectifying?
I'll tell you what was a mistake, leaving a £22 billion black hole that we had to sort out. We took the difficult decisions investing in our NHS, and I would have thought he would have welcomed the 2 million extra appointments that we've achieved in the first 7 months of a Labour government. That's the difference our budget is making to people.
Can I just say, I had my reservations about them taking down that portrait of Admiral Nelson, replacing it with one of Yvette Cooper. But that glasses, silk scarf, blue jacket combo today, I endorse that decision now.
Really?
She's a woman who understands her aesthetics, yeah. And I'm pro.
I wasn't looking at that. I was thinking, about the value of what she has to say.
Yeah. I think people would take her more seriously if she had one arm, though.
Yeah, true, yeah.
This is what the Treasury did to me, but that's how hard I fought.
Or had, 34,000 sailors at her command.
Yeah. Or she was on top of a big column. I think.
That's next. That's next.
Yeah.
That's what the woke left's planning.
The Cooper Monument.
Being interviewed by Ed Balls while she's up there.
Okay, Ava.
Well, they're on 2 columns like they're all gladiators. They've got to bat each other off with those sticks. Yeah.
Ava, tell us about that clip. What was Luke Evans asking Keir Starmer about
I think
there?
you'll find that was Dr. Luke Evans, actually.
Please forgive me.
That was Dr. Luke Evans talking about the winter fuel payments that have led to a lot of pensioners being plunged into poverty. And he was also talking about the farmers' tax, the inheritance tax that will come into force in April, I do believe. And he was asking whether that was a mistake in the figures or whether Starmer intentionally meant to punish people. And I thought this clip was interesting, not necessarily because of Dr. Luke Evans, although he was very interesting for a time. Do you remember when he thought he was like the new hot MP and he used to do all these TikToks?
He got us the Nadine Dorries doesn't know how to do her job TikTok.
He did, didn't he?
That was him interviewing Nadine Dorries, and she said, downstream your movies. Play on your tennis pitches.
Tennis pitches, yeah.
So Starmer's rebuttal to this was, well, actually, it's this £22 billion black hole that the last government left us. And I don't think that line is cutting through anymore. I don't think that it has a lot of veracity.
Particularly if you're going to start sort of magicking £6 billion for defence spending out your arse.
Well, he didn't magic it out his arse, Ollie. He cancelled the DEI programmes.
Yeah.
We've gone too woke. And by reducing wokeness, we can get back $6 billion to give to some people in Ukraine. We're not sure where it's coming from. We're not sure where it's going.
I
but we
think
can do it.
that's the best Starmer impression we've had on the podcast.
Thank you.
I think that's good.
That was really good.
Yeah.
He's a hard one to do. He's hard to find.
Yeah. Well, the
Vocally.
trick with Starmer is to think of the sort of boring thing that he would say. And I thought actually when he was going on about
2 million more appointments. That was great. What is it? Nothing gets people harder in the morning than 2 million appointments. Appointments for what? It's not clear from what I'm saying. It could be an appointment for an MOT at Halfords. Either way, there are more appointments than ever before.
That has a touch of the Brian Butterfield about it, I would say, as well.
Yeah, well, I think Starmer is sort of he's in the Partridge Butterfield nexus.
Yes.
But I've spent so long doing Starmer that it's hard to kind of do Partridge now.
Yes.
But Starmer's more nasal.
Yes.
And it has that slight hesitance at the bottom. It's low in the throat. It's when he seems almost a bit emotional. And I think I put it to you, sir.
It's very
yeah. I like it. I don't think 22 billion. I don't think it lands anymore. I think people are fed up, and I also think Ava, you're very right. They're not going to give it to foreign aid anymore, are they? But still, if you're going to start on a sixpence spinning and saying, do you know what, actually we've got £6 billion to put into defence spending now, I don't think you can sort of point an accusation of fiscal... what's the right word for it?
Negligence?
Yeah, I guess so.
Responsibility?
At the Conservative Party.
Yeah, and I think that, we'll get into this a bit more within the next question and Diane Abbott's question, but the foreign aid budget is being used to house asylum seekers in the UK. And if you look at local councils' budgets at the moment, like some of them, like if you look at somewhere like Newham Council, it's around 60% of their budget is going on housing and temporary accommodation. And some of that will include asylum seekers. There's actually no money left. So to cut that back will mean that there's a domino effect. It will mean that you'll start seeing it visually on the roads. You'll start seeing more schools closing. Like it's not just like we're not going to provide, I don't know, let me hyperbolize it for a minute. We're not going to give condoms to people in India because apparently that's all we do with it. Which is
space
important.
programs or dance classes for countries with space programs.
Too many people in India are raw dogging it.
Yeah.
And that has to stop. It's very irresponsible.
Just him constantly being handed the world's most specific issues and having to address them.
People in Mongolia are falling off horses and injuring their heads. We have to send them helmets.
Do you know what today is the anniversary of?
What is it the anniversary of?
It is the anniversary of Zac Efron appearing at the Lorax premiere where he dropped a condom on the orange carpet.
Was that him? Well, we shouldn't have given that to him. I mean, he can afford his own. You hear me, Efron?
This is what people are talking about when they say governmental waste.
Was that him trying to break out with like his Disney image? And
He
be
was
like,
still very much in his Disney image, so it was a real moment.
That's what the E in DEI stands for. It's Efron.
I thought it was erection.
Yeah.
Does Efron inseminate? Yeah. Sure does.
That's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Does everyone inseminate?
Efron.
Yeah.
Oh.
Don't let Efron inseminate.
Don't.
Yeah.
Efron inseminate?
One Efron's enough.
Don't.
No.
Should we put the clip? Or do you want to keep doing Efron condom?
I like when he says he keeps doing Keir Starmer. Like,
Yeah.
okay,
I
Jenny
like
Chapman.
that.
Yeah. Very good.
Can we say that?
Yeah. Go on, let's have another one. Roll the clip.
Of a nation. What specific steps will he
I was very
take
loose with the time code.
to ensure
Don't want to
Ukraine
miss
is
it.
at the negotiating
But I think they're not
table
being
for
too
any
loose.
peace settlement?
You are very lucid.
Yeah.
Well, I thank her for her words about the forthcoming trip. And it is right, and I think the whole House will think it's right, that Ukraine must be at the table at negotiations. There can be no negotiations about Ukraine without Ukraine. That has been my consistent position in all of the discussions that I've had. That will continue to be my position, because this is about the sovereignty of Ukraine and their ability to decide for themselves the future of their country. So they must be at the table.
Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Prime Minister for that answer, and as I said, I wish him every success. We want to support him on this issue. So turning to the details of the plan he set out yesterday. Over the weekend, I suggested to the Prime Minister that he cut the aid budget, and I am pleased that he accepted my advice. Mr. Speaker, it's the fastest response. It's the fastest response I've ever had from the Prime Minister. However, he announced £13.4 billion in additional defence spending yesterday. This morning, his Defence Secretary said the uplift is only £6 billion, which is the correct figure.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
Villain table. Oh.
I went the other way.
Oh, okay. Sorry. You included the beginning and irrelevant part of the exchange and knocked off her actual question and Starmer's response.
So Starmer's response, which I would say is probably the entire reason that we picked that clip.
Sorry, guys.
So I'll just fill you in.
Yeah. Sorry, Milo. We didn't actually get what Starmer said in that clip. But
Well, I tell you what, I'll tee you up and then you can just read the quote mark.
All right,
See?
okay.
See
Yeah,
this?
sure.
Okay. So it was Keir Starmer answering Kemi Badenoch, who said that she'd sent him a letter over the weekend about cutting the aid budget, and he said, "I'm going to let you down gently."
She didn't feature in my thinking at all.
See, that was better.
Which
I knew Milo like that in
sensible
the thing he said all week. I think not thinking about Kemi Badenoch is always a good start in
Yeah.
my experience.
I'd say so.
It's quite like a mix of like that scene from Mad Men, or maybe like Mariah Carey talking about Jennifer Lopez.
I feel sad for her writing Keir Starmer unrequited letters.
Do you?
Yeah, writing him letters. He's not even reading them. I think the disrespect Does the being leader of the opposition mean nothing anymore?
Yeah, she's like St. Paul.
Another letter to the apostles.
Yeah.
What is this? 15? Please write one back.
The Corinthians will not budge on their aid budget. Dreadful.
It's bang on for Kemi Badenoch though, because she's been criticised over the last week for never turning up on time for anything, right? So this decision was made on Friday that they were going to cut the aid budget, and she sends them a letter on Saturday. So that is actually bang on in Kemi meantime.
And bringing it up on a Wednesday.
And bringing it up on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Always late. And it connects to what we were talking about earlier, right? This extra money for defence spending, whether or not it's 6 billion quid or whether it's 13 billion quid.
Yeah, there's some discrepancy over the figures, and it was the IFS who had to step in and basically say to Labour, like, this is a bit of a fudge on your figures. But Starmer today doubled down on it. I think 3 times he confirmed that their point is from this financial year compared to the end of 2027, there will be a £13.4 billion difference. But in real terms, in what they're actually allocating, it is only £6 billion. But they conveniently leave that bit out. So they've already allocated a significant portion of this.
So it's basically between now and then, if defence spending wasn't actually going to increase, even though it is scheduled to, and obviously there are real terms increases, then it would be £13 billion.
Yeah.
But because it's actually only 6.
Is it like the new hospitals, like X number of new hospitals, and that included hospitals that were already built? That the Tory government did.
Yeah, I suppose so.
It's not about the number of hospitals, it's about the number of appointments.
It's 2 million.
Think about it. There's going to be a lot of defence appointments. Let's think about that.
That's a drone strike. Yeah. There's like one guy from the Irish Guards in Kiev who's having meetings with people. And you can go and see him and you can talk about, your men's mental health or whatever. He's got office hours.
Obama.
Yeah. We're going to send Prince Harry over there.
Obama says, you have an appointment with the Department of Defence.
No, Saddam. That's how they found him down in that cave, because that was actually his office. He was offering men's mental health advice down there.
Appointments, the SAS dug him out of there and nicked a flip-flop.
And that's why they let the Americans in. They thought they were there for
I thought
chat.
Badenoch did quite well today.
She did?
Yeah, she did and she didn't, because the one thing she did really well, she actually did accidentally, which was to out him for using the defence uplift spend on securing the Chagos Islands. So that spend that's going to go over to securing the military base there. She actually she accidentally got him to admit that that's coming out of this increase, which means that the money that he's going to go to Trump and say is for Ukraine is actually significantly depleted.
Is this the politics that Keir Starmer spent the last sort of 4 years claiming to hate and decry? And be like, it's all sticking plaster, it's politics by media management, it's an announcement to get a headline, it's not actually substantial. So, in this instance, allocating like the Secret Service spending so that it's included and you get to 2.5%, and you could accuse it of being creative accounting as a result. Is he become what he professed to hate when he was in opposition?
But he's also a hostage to fortune. As in, he's now in a very different geopolitical circumstance than he was. Oh, maybe not very different. Maybe like the mask's off, isn't like
when I
US and
became
Russia.
Prime Minister, I discovered that actually doing real things is very hard. Whereas doing made-up things and just moving numbers around that are all made up anyway is very easy. And I think we should bear that in mind.
He was very surprised to learn about the end of the Western Alliance when they told him about it in Downing Street.
Yeah, but even 22 billion is made up, right? It's just like, oh, well, we imposed our own account structure on this and we've decided there's a £22 billion black hole. But you could get another government in who will decide there's a black hole of a completely different size or no black hole.
Yeah, absolutely. I also, when you said that he was hostage to fortune, but 4 years ago, he was in the Commons standing up about foreign aid, and it was when Boris Johnson wanted to reduce it from 0.7% of GDP to 0.5%. He voted against it, and he said it was a stain, and that every living prime minister would agree. So now, if you think about it, in 4 years, just 4 years, you've knocked 0.4%, off of GDP on foreign aid spend. That's shocking.
Yeah. Are you surprised?
Am I surprised
by him doing this?
I am. I'm surprised about cutting foreign aid, I suppose, because you kind of think Keir Starmer is like the definition of a foreign aid prime minister, almost. Like he's like international human rights lawyer.
He's foreign to you, is he?
Yeah, I consider him because he's English. Yeah. I was trying to think if he had any foreign heritage that I was aware of, so he could be xenophobic, but he doesn't. So forcing an English independence, and so you want to get rid of them.
Should we get Constantine on the phone? Should we ask him?
Is it a civic nationalism? Yeah.
But like, I've completely forgot my point.
Well, I was asking you if you're surprised, because like my line of thinking is he's actually, from his campaign to become leader of the Labour Party through until now, I would say, been pretty liberal with his sort of relationship with the truth. And he's prepared to promise one thing to win an election. And then when he secures the position that he was competing for, governs or leads in a different way to what he was telling everyone he would do.
What did you expect him to do? Like put in the manifesto that he was going to reduce aid spend and also he was going to cut the Winterfield pension.
But then I think with the aid spend, does it not come back to, is he not just a hostage to events at that point? Like if Harris is in the, I think we probably disagree about this, but if Harris is in the White House, I don't think he does this. I think he is unlucky enough to be the Prime Minister at like the absolute end of Britain's place at the high table in the world. Like he's the one, it's managed the climate, he's the manager.
Can I just say it's the best time to have cut ourselves off from our physically and politically closest allies. What an amazing time to be adrift somewhere at the Atlantic. It's awesome.
I don't know.
He's come begging, he's had to cut the aid. Okay. He's got 4 planes and 1 guy. And he thinks he's going to fight the Russians.
And the guy can fly the plane.
But, you know, I think it wasn't an outside bet from the beginning of last year that Trump was at least in contention to win the White House, right? And probably you could say that became clearer and clearer as the year went on. The war in Ukraine isn't new. Like they're not events that have materialised.
No, Trump blindsided them. He definitely did. Because they were sending envoys over to go meet the Democrats. They appointed David Lammy as foreign secretary because he's mates with Obama and then ergo Biden and Harris. Like they were completely blindsided by it.
The Labour Party sent the Democrats advisors, which I think shows why they did so well. I think we can all see, because the Labour were like, we won a landslide, and there were no external factors. It was because we're really good at politics, we're all mega charismatic. Send Wes Streeting over there and teach them a lesson about engaging with ordinary voters.
Yeah, and it came good.
But I think is it tough? I think it speaks to my point about being the manage decline manager. Is if they're honest, they stand up and say, "Oh, we're fucked." Like there's this larger than us battle of wills going on. No one's listening to us. We're not important. We do not have we have no defense. We are totally isolated. Like we are fucked. None of them are going to say that because part of like.
I think they could probably say it slightly more gently than that.
But I think even saying it at all is saying that. Like the whole pretense of British politics is that we are still important and that we are like internationally, like everyone should listen to us. And it's like the embassy.
They should make an appointment to speak to us.
For the officers. But like what could they say?
More now, of course.
If they were being honest, what like could they say that's in any way electorally palatable?
I'd tell you what they could say. You know, like when Thatcher kept getting involved in the whole Gorbachev thing, and actually we really didn't need to be involved because it wasn't really our argument. We could be like, we've seen that and we're just going to step back. We're just not going to pretend to be involved.
Well, and I get the next clip we're going to see is also, I think, sort of in a similar territory.
Gotta hope we see it.
Yeah. Let's see what Ed sent to the gallery. Roll the clip.
Energy bills by £300. Yet on their watch, energy bills are about to increase by almost £300. So may I ask, is the failure to keep that promise a consequence of government incompetency, or have the Labour Party been caught lying to the public?
Well, Mr. Speaker, we're very proud of the fact that we are pushing forward for energy independence, which will keep our bills lower. And he knows very well what my position is. But I note that, again, he's very quiet on the SNP record. And I'll tell you for why. Just this week, we've seen the attainment gap widen in Scotland. Pupils leaving schools with no qualifications rising, those from deprived areas going to work falling. Instead of playing the politics of grievance, they need to take responsibility for their own record.
They could make an appointment to do that, for example.
They could. Okay, Ed. So what did Stephen Flynn say before the clip came in?
Great question. So I kept keeping that knowledge hostage. It's just classic Stephen Flynn calling out Keir Starmer and the Labour Party for dishonesty.
Well, this is what I'm saying. I couldn't have put it better than myself than how Stephen Flynn did. Was it deliberate lying when he said that the Labour Party would stop bills from increasing, or was he just clueless? Like, what is it? How has he made that promise only for the price cap to be lifted whilst they're in government.
Well, in his defence, in Starmer's defence, they did have a £28 billion green energy plan, right? And that was very good when they were in opposition and fighting an election. And then they got frightened by the media, so they doubled down. They scrapped that, right? Ed Miliband was on track to deliver cheaper energy, possibly by like 2040, but that's gone out the window. And it's not their fault that Thames Water still wants to pump shit into the rivers and charge you extra for your bills. And it's also not their fault that Ofgem, the independent regulator, which by the way you could actually get rid of, is upping the price of energy. It's not their fault that there's still an illegal war going on in Ukraine, which means that energy is more expensive, is it?
You just can't do anything when you're the government. That's the problem. You know, they're doing the Joe Biden thing of just like, who's the prime minister? I'd like to have a word with him. Like every day, just being like, I wish I could do something about this water company. I wish I could do it, but unfortunately, there's nothing I could do. He's like holding his hands over his eyes. I can't see any solutions. What can I do about this? I just have to let them do it. I have no option.
Yeah.
What's interesting there is that's actually like the SNP Labour argument. Is the SNP have been the incumbent government in Scotland since 2007, and anything that's wrong with Scotland in terms of education levels, drug deaths, is, we're only the devolved government. It's actually the power at the UK level, and the UK government are not taking responsibility for any of these decisions either. So it's pot calling kettle black.
I quite liked Flynn asking about the energy bills, and then Starmer just being like, well, actually, your education attainment levels are appalling in Scotland, so do something about that, Stephen.
Well, he did say incompetency. So
well, that's
maybe Starmer's got a point. Was he educated under an SNP government?
I'm not sure Flynn was I don't know, how old is Stephen Flynn? Late 30s?
That's the sort of question I would ask you, to be quite honest with you. Baselessly, because you're Scottish.
Should we play the 49 game? We love that game.
He's nowhere near 49.
49 is
not
just,
according to the birthday cake.
it's just guess who is 49. It is a good game.
Right.
49er, yeah.
Okay, I've got to give it a guess.
Flynn, I give you 33.
36.
38.
36 years, yeah.
Oh, so you were right. You were right to ask me.
Yes, exactly.
So he left school 18 years ago. Did he? I think he just
Very
missed.
good maths there.
I think he went to school under a Lib Lab coalition.
Oh, really?
Poor guy.
So technically it's on Starmer.
I think it's on Jack McDonald, to be fair.
Also, could you not make the argument that Labour have a majority now? At least in Westminster.
But
so it's not if like Starmer is observing that there is low attainment in Scotland, should he not perhaps provide more funding to one of his
he's given Scotland more funding.
Yeah, but apparently he needs more because
that's what they keep saying. They gave them so much money.
We're going to make an appointment for every Scottish child.
Well, that'd be good if they could do that, I guess.
I'm going to read them the Gruffalo. It's the best I can do. We'll accept it as a compromise. Okay?
Do you think that you get confused because every single time that England gives you money,
we
give you English £20 notes, and you don't know what to do with them, so you keep putting them in the bin.
I think you'll find that's legal tender.
I once convinced an English girl that the Scottish pound was stronger than the English pound.
Really?
Oh, very good.
It was good. So you're all thick as fucking shit.
Yeah, talk about the attainment gap in English schools.
But to be fair, they had to keep giving those £20 notes to all of those, those safe drug houses that they've got now. They give them all rolled up to them.
I think it's time for another clip.
We've rolled back the dangerous drug houses and replaced them.
That was really a branding error from us.
They are safe, I promise.
No, I mean, they're giving them the rolled up notes.
We should have given everyone their own needle. I acknowledge that now. Oh my God, there were teething problems.
It was a basic error.
One guy, one needle.
We thought we could save money by only having one needle and giving it a little wash in between.
A little spit wipe.
And that guy is the captain of the Scots Guards.
This is it. We've been feeding off scraps of Starmer accents with this Ed Campbell impression right here. I just want to make it absolutely.
I was joining in.
Yeah, and I encourage you. I'm glad you're having fun, but your impressions are worlds apart. I just have to say so.
Milo's a professional comedian.
yeah. Look,
who's shocked?
I'm not saying I wouldn't expect that from Milo, but I'm just saying you're really seeing the Premier League. I wouldn't even say Championship. We're probably like EFL.
You would say amateur.
Sunday League. Do you think your accent's Sunday League?
Amateur. Amdram.
How's your Alex Salmond?
Ooh. I wouldn't want to take them in vain.
I'm Alex Evans. I'm dead.
Who's here?
Yeah, there he is.
Is he in the room with you now? That was good, Ed.
Be careful, he's a bit close to you there. Oh dear.
He has been before, actually.
Who said that, Kate? Was it Alex Evans?
Chagos deal coming from the defence budget, yes or no?
Prime Minister.
As I said, when the deal is complete, I will put it before the House with the costings. The money yesterday was allocated to our capability, the single biggest increase, sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War.
Diane Abbott.
The whole country stands behind the people of Ukraine. But there is also a view that taking money from aid and development to spend on armaments and tanks makes people less safe, not more safe, because the desperation and the poverty that so often leads to warfare is what aid and development money is supposed to counter.
Mr. Speaker, as I said yesterday, the overseas development is important. I'm proud of what we've done. It wasn't a decision I took lightly or I wanted to take, but it is important at this moment that we put the defence spending, the defence and security of our country and Europe uppermost. We will, of course, make sure that we're able to fulfil our humanitarian obligations in relation to Gaza, Ukraine and Sudan.
Great job, Ed.
We've given Zac Efron a Johnny. Is that not enough?
This is going to be interesting, actually, in the edit of whether, because we've riffed on how bad the clips are.
They wouldn't see this.
Whether or not they include the bad clips in the actual edit of the podcast, or they provide the audience with the actual information that we're supposed to provide them with in the PMQs podcast.
I think we put his ones in.
I think it's surely the latter.
What, and cover up your incompetency?
Because no, because we're addressing it. They will know what's happening in the studio, but the audience will resent not having the full information, and then they won't be on our side. But then they're in on the joke if they have the full information.
Interesting. And of course,
the audience knowing more than
us having this conversation now.
Dramatic irony.
Yeah, because it will have made a decision. They'll have heard at least 3 clips where we've made that decision. Yeah.
This podcast is happening on a meta level. It's sort of like a waiting for Godot.
Always has been. Ava, the mother of the house, Diane Abbott, she's got a point, hasn't she? She's got a point there.
Was she mothering?
Well, I've been told not to use that phrase. So
interesting that it took around what is that?
Was there a crumb?
That was like 20 minutes into Prime Minister's questions, the first proper time that it's brought up about foreign aid, which is interesting because if you think about the last Labour Party, if you think about the Labour Party that you had about 4 or 5 years ago, I think it would have been first on the agenda, even maybe 2 years ago. But yeah, she's talking about that cut, which, by the way, we still don't actually know where that what foreign aid is going to be cut, right? So they're wiping off 0.3% of it. Where is that coming from?
I think we were all in agreement, though. It's the Efron Johnnies.
The Efron Johnnies.
Zac Efron is sweating watching this.
Yeah,
he's calling his accountant.
They have to go. It's gratuitous.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's so many.
Too many.
It's sort of every debate with this government is mental, isn't it? Because it's always like the debate is always between, it's not whether like should we spend money on this or that. It's like should we have foreign aid or defence spending? And it's like, well, are those two things in natural opposition to each other? Can we only have one or the other? Or could defence spending be in opposition to something else? I don't know. But it's this constant idea that like, because actually, if America is withdrawing the defence umbrella, like I hate to say it, maybe, I mean, this is not going to make me popular. Maybe we do need to spend a bit more money on defence than because we've cut our defence spending like pretty much forever.
I don't think that'll make you unpopular. I think that's a very very obvious point, actually. I think.
Sorry. Only make you unpopular in the sense that everyone will think you're a fucking idiot. So
yeah.
No, it's right. It's a valid point.
Like one gun between two is not really like a great policy.
Yeah,
and that does seem to be what we've been operating.
The Soviets learned that, didn't they? They learned that the hard way.
Oh, they did win at Stalingrad. Maybe that Starmer's like just not read the whole.
And it's like, if 40 million people need to die to win the war, that's okay. There'll be 20 million left, and we'll have so many more appointments to go around. Think of how many times you could go to the GP if 40 million Britons died. That's 10 to 1.
Yeah,
Twice
kill
in
all
one
the
day.
farmers before April. That will solve the inheritance tax thing. That's the thing, really. I think the tax avoidance people, they should be giving like more drastic advice. They should be talking to farmers and being like, "Have you considered ritual suicide before April?" Because then you could get in under the wire of this inheritance tax thing.
And if Kim Leadbeater gets away with the assisted dying bill,
Yeah.
it'll be a lot quicker, won't it? Because she's trying to open it up to everyone. She doesn't even want you to see a doctor. She just wants you to be able to just
Death pods.
Yeah,
walk into
Clarkson
yeah.
could immolate himself in front of Annabelle's. You know, that'd send a message.
It would,
Yeah.
to the heart of government. To the heart of government. I think your point about defence is right. You know, you look at the French; they spend less, they've got a bigger army, and their nuclear weapons. I mean, separate debate. But if we have them, you know, theirs are independent, right? They don't need the Americans to make them functional. So I think it's fair that people look at our.
Yeah, but they proved themselves a little bit useless during World War II, didn't we? So we're not exactly looking at them for like, you know.
They
do
do
you know
need
what I
the
mean?
French to make them functional, which is, you know.
there are risks inherent in
We'll
that.
be on strike.
Sorry, I was having a cigarette there.
Yeah.
Were we supposed to do thousand somewhere?
Do you know in World War One, you know, when they all got over the trenches and they all had like a sorry or whatever, the French were actually late because they were all still in bed. Like that was we were waiting around for ages.
Well, Christmas Day truce.
It's not true.
Oh,
It's a good job they weren't there. They'd have fucking trounced us at football.
Diane Abbott makes a really good point that on your point about defence at the end there, where she's saying that the point. Let me just get it up because it was very well said. She said, like, taking money from aid and development to spend on arms and tanks makes people less safe, not more safe, because the desperation and poverty that often leads to warfare is what aid and development money is supposed to counter. And that's something we saw in Libya. Like, there's been a few conversations around whether climate change aided in the civil war, and that was because a lot of people were moving into towns and cities because they weren't able to. It was too hot in the country. There was no agriculture left. They all had to move in, and that lot didn't seem to get on with each other. But when you're looking ahead at the next 20 years and you're thinking about the sort of climate catastrophe and people moving countries, if you are a government, like Keir Starmer says he is, that's concerned about waves of immigration, you should think about upping your foreign aid spend. Because if you're worried about people coming in, the best way to counter that is to probably make where they are a bit safer.
But this is the whole point, though, right?
But we can't do that.
No?
Because that would be gay, I think. I think we can all agree that would be a really homosexual course of action and one that Keir Starmer cannot afford to be seen doing in case, Kemi Badenoch gets up there and says, you are gay.
And I have to say, well, I think there are at least 2 women who would disagree with that.
Hell. I was like going to seriously engage with Ava's point, and I'm kind of glad I actually didn't because we wouldn't have got that.
What I said was sort of silly, but it's also kind of true, which is like we can't do things that work because the other side will call them gay. And I'm being slightly facetious, but that is effectively what the
About which the premise or the conclusion? Which one were you like?
Well, as in like because they're doing foreign aid spending is woke, so you can't do it. So it doesn't matter if there's a good reason to do it in practical terms, because the other side will be like, well, that's woke nonsense. It's it's condoms for Zac Efron. We're not interested.
It is Owen. Oh, can I tell you about some Owen that I saw the other day?
Please, Ed, yeah.
I went to a sauna, and at the reception they had flyers for a charity, and I'm going to get the name probably wrong, but it's quite similar to this: International Sauna Aid, where they build saunas in war zones.
What? This is like a Finnish initiative. Like, what are you trying to think?
Idea. But like, surely there are a million.
What kind of like sexy saunas or like regular?
I think to relax. I think it's like.
Are you familiar with chariots?
Chariots?
Yeah.
Like as in the modes of transport?
No, as in the...
how else did you get here?
Formerly Europe's largest gay sauna in London. There's only one left now, I think, in Vauxhall, but there was one in East London. Yeah.
But as in, like, surely there's a million more things people in war zones need.
Yeah, but have you been to the Banya?
I actually went last weekend.
Yes, yeah.
So good.
I thought you did
You
actually.
get beaten with the birch.
I absolutely got
But
birched.
if you
No,
were-
Ed,
if
we're
you-
moving on. No, stop.
If you're living in the Donbass, you might appreciate like some medical supplies more
Oh,
than
they
than a
couldn't go
hot-
to the Banya, could they? Because if they enjoy, it's Russian,
Yeah.
obviously, the Banya, isn't it?
Yeah.
That would be the Russian-Ukrainian Christmas truce, as they're all in the Banya together,
Yeah.
Is this a
whipping
Russian
each other
front,
with a
do you
birch
think?
twig.
I wondered.
Is this a Russian front?
I did actually wonder about the sort of the explosive popularity of the Banya and whether or not it was a Russian op.
The people who work there are all Russian, so maybe.
But then we can't blame all the Russians, can we?
We can't.
and their saunas are lovely. I felt really bad. There's the blokes who who beat you with the tree leaves.
Yeah.
That's his job. You're in a sauna. You work in a sauna and you beat people with leaves.
Oh, I went with 12
sauna.
girls. He didn't mind.
Yeah. Garrick has found calling in life. He loves to beat people with branch.
He was coming out, honestly, like rubbing the twigs together, going, "Who's next? Who's next?"
Line
he
up,
was
ladies.
fucking loving it. Yeah. They should
Rubbing
have
the
paid.
twigs together like Vicarys.
Ooh, Ivavu.
They should have paid us, to be honest.
Now
honestly.
that we are going out with each other.
I was surprised by that because I thought the beating would be the most intense part of it, but actually it was the wafting.
Oh, the wafting's bad.
Yeah, so you've been.
Yeah, I got wafted, and they like waft the heat from the thing at you, and it's like it makes a sauna so much hotter to an extent that you cannot possibly imagine from that description.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is too much for me, and I walked out, and then there was like this little old Russian lady outside who somehow intuited from my vibe that I spoke Russian, which I do not understand, and she's like shoving me back in. She's going, I'm like, where are you going? It's free. And I'm like, that's not the problem. The cost is not the issue. The issue is I'm going to have a stroke.
Why was it free?
Because I'd already paid. Because you're in there. It's not like an additional service. It's like
Is this where our fucking foreign aid is going on? It's going on free banya.
Big wafters for the...
Big wafters.
Because you watch it. So in the sauna, you're like just doing regular sauna things. And then you watch someone who's getting, I think it's parenia. Is that right?
Parenia, yeah.
Parenia, yeah, there we go. You watch it happen, and so you see him wafting, and you're like, well, he's just taking a break. That's superfluous. Well, that's not going to do anything. And then you sit down, and he does it, and it's like this heat of roasting air sort of engulfs you. And
it's like being grilled.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
That doesn't sound that pleasant.
It was actually really nice.
A lot of things that Russians enjoy are not that pleasant, to be honest with you.
Yeah?
Yeah, vodka, banya, perestroika, it's like...
Glasnost. I had a vodka afterwards, actually. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, it was very nice. But they said...
Did you plunge after?
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah. They said don't drink alcohol before you come, and then you open up the iPad that has the menu on, and the top section is like food for beer.
Yeah.
So I think they do encourage you to drink.
May I make a point about Diane Abbott?
Please.
Yes,
I brought up the sauna.
Yeah, back to...
Sorry for derailing
Abbott in the
everything.
banya?
Not Abbott in the banya.
There's a podcast.
I think, is Diane Abbott's point best made in entirely different geopolitical circumstances? As in, I think, again, Starmer's a hostage to fortune. We're in this position where you do probably need to build the UK's defences. And he did say they would like to build up foreign aid at a certain point. So in the short term, he's made the decision that the priority is defence spending. Like, there already is a war in Ukraine. There's not a risk of poverty or a lack of development leading to one. There is one. It's here and now. And your point about like foreign aid further down the line is entirely right. And there will be like geopolitical crises that we can't even imagine in the next 20 years that we should be looking out for. But it would be, I don't necessarily think it's a wrong move to prioritise defence spending in this current climate.
Yeah. But I think the point that Milo was making, it shouldn't be like an either or.
No, that's also
like
that is absolutely true. That is true.
Because it's sort of like with the pensioners, right? They were like, well, okay, you want upgrades to your schools, therefore the pensioners have to freeze. And again, it's like, this is sort of like, I don't understand why everything has to be like Sophie's choice. Like, it shouldn't... do you know what I mean?
Rachel's choice.
In every scenario they've presented to us, like in the past 6 months, it's been like, someone's dying, pick which one it is. Like, it's mental.
So either kids can't read or granny freezes.
Yeah.
I've spoken to Mummy, and she says that either the children will be able to read or the pensioners can live. Do you want Nan or do you want literacy? Do not shoot the messenger. Shoot the pensioners.
Don't shoot them. That's kind of his vibe. Don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah,
he does
it's
talk
like
about
you're the Prime Minister.
It's so past as if like all these things are not actually up to him.
Yeah, it's so fun. Like, they just decide how much money there is. Keir just decide there's more money and there it will be. He doesn't.
But that is true. It baffles me. It's like when Rachel stood up and was like, I'm changing the fiscal rules. It's like, yeah, we all knew you could fucking do this. Like, why even telling us? Just do it.
Yeah.
Change it more.
One more clip?
Yeah.
Roll the clip.
Let's see if this one lands.
Spending,
nice
the biggest increase
nope.
since the end of the Cold War. I invite him to visit and see the many SMEs who could support this vital supply chain. Does he agree that investing in these businesses will not only deliver our nuclear deterrent, but improve security and the economy for us all?
Well, I thank her for raising this question, and we'll obviously consider her invitation. Defence spending, Mr. Speaker, already supports more than 430,000 jobs across the United Kingdom, and I'd like to recognise the contribution made by the workers in Barrow and Furness.
Wendy Morton.
Mr. Speaker, in my constituency, the planning inspector chose to use the term grey belt to pass a battery energy storage system application before the order was laid in this House to change the NPPF, and without recognising the moratorium for local authorities to manage their local plans. This decision failed to recognise the green belt that protects us against urban sprawl, and it failed to recognise the proximity to a school, a church and a graveyard. So can the Prime Minister define what grey belt actually is, or is it simply a grey area to allow for inappropriate development?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm not across the details of the individual case that she raises, as she will understand, but I am in favour of making sure that we can have the infrastructure and the houses that we need to grow our economy. And one of the problems we had in the last 14 years was an assertional rhetoric that we wanted homes and infrastructure, but when the decision, all that came up, the answer was always no. The answer cannot always be no.
Yeah, fuck the NIMBYs.
I love this so much.
You got all of that there.
But, yeah.
I'm sorry, that's what you were doing. I thought you were being like, he went off, slammed her down.
I was thrilled.
You were thrilled that you got the clip right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well done, Ed. Thank you. Competency.
So her argument against this new planning application is that it's next to a church, a graveyard and a school, which I think seems rather reasonable. I'm not...
Got everything you need.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like The Sims. Yeah, people are going to die straight in the graveyard. New people from the school, educate them in the ways of the Lord. They won't be scared of the graveyard. There we go.
With the graveyard, you also have no fear of being overlooked, which is quite nice, isn't it?
Sorry, so you don't think, you think she has a point? You think there shouldn't be a battery storage facility there?
I think that she might be just like, I can't say what I think.
Why?
I feel like it might involve some anatomical and possibly misogynistic language. Would I be...
You know me.
Yeah.
What kind of batteries were they trying to store?
Who gives a
Double
fuck?
A?
Like, why? Double A?
She's more of a 9-volt guy.
Yeah.
I just, it's the exception to every single planning application. And it's like...
Bring it up in Parliament. Be like, there is a churchyard and a school. Like, yeah. People live there. There's services
People
everywhere.
don't only need double A's and triple A's. They also need the little thin round ones that go into a watch or other smaller items. A Fitbit, if you will. There are demand for these kind of batteries, and they have to be stored somewhere. And the ideal place is next to a graveyard, a church, and a school. To be fair, graveyards and churches are usually next to each other. I don't know why she's lifted them separately.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's sort of implied.
Church,
one
school,
usually comes with the other, yeah.
I've never seen a graveyard attached to a KFC, although perhaps, given some of the saturated fat content, it should be.
But say, like, for example, she was worried about, like, I don't know, she was worried about them being radioactive, or she was worried about electric currents. Like, surely the best place to put that is next to people who are dead.
Or young. Maybe it'll bring them back to life. Maybe that's what she's worried about.
That's the play.
28 days later.
That is the move.
We put batteries in all these old people and they've come back to life.
It's new voters for her.
Yeah.
Old people.
We're coming to the end of our recording.
That's such a shame.
We're running out of time.
It went so quick, but that's presumably because we spent so much time watching bits
of PMQs we didn't want to highlight to everyone.
No.
Yeah.
It's good to get to the grips with it.
It's been a great appointment.
I mean, I've loved the appointment, Milo. I think the only thing I'd ask, you do good impressions. You also do a really good Jeremy Vine impression. And I haven't thought of a way to segue it in.
I'm happy to bring out Vine. I tell you what, he'd have managed that debate a lot better.
There we go.
He'd have just witheringly gone, okay, thank you, after a stupid point. And he'd have played Sussudio. And that's how Vine does it. That's why Starmer's not got the sauce. That's what people are saying.
What if I call in and be a woman who's upset about the battery factory?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to do it, Ed? No, please. You're so good at role
It was your idea.
No, but you're so much. Yeah, please.
Ava, you're upset about the battery factory in...
No, that's Ed.
Oh, no, it's Ed is upset. You're happy about it.
Actually, do it again. Say Ava and he'll answer. That's great.
Yeah.
You'll do your best impression.
Oh, no.
Then it's even.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ava in Shoreditch is called in. She's upset about the battery factory. Ava, how are you doing?
Good.
Ava's Scottish in this, by the way.
How do you feel about the battery storage facility next to the church and graveyard in your area?
I'm sure you'll agree, Jeremy, that those two things can never. They're not complementary. I'm really concerned about the risk of the corpses corrupting and eroding and corroding the batteries.
Well, I'm on the BBC, so I'm not allowed to agree with anything. But what I will say is, if I can just say, Ava, aren't most of the people in the cemetery dead and therefore immune to the effects of batteries? What would you say to that?
Well, the studies of the effects of batteries and the dead or the undead are in their infancy.
All right, well, this is Cuddly Toy by Roachford.
Very good. Yeah. We'll give one of those.
I'm clapping for Ed.
I'm clapping for Milo.
I love that. Milo, should we give you an opportunity to plug?
Please.
What would you like to plug, my brother?
Well, I'd like to plug my new battery storage facility, just a stone's throw from a church, a school, and a graveyard. So if you need to store any batteries, hit me up.
They won't let you plug that in, will they?
No. Got lots of those.
Well, that's the point of the battery, isn't it? You don't need to plug it in.
Well, no, but you need to charge them. That's the thing.
Yes.
The argument.
Yeah.
But yeah, find me online. I do several podcasts: Trash Future, Glue Factory, which Ed has been on, and Masters of Our Domain. So,
and that was Milo Yiannopoulos.
That was me. Yeah.
Back from the dead.
Absolutely.
What happened to him? What did he go? He did.
He was Kanye's advisor for a bit.
Wow, which again shows what great advice he gives. He's up there with the Labour Democrat advisors.
Are you going on tour?
I will be. I'm doing some dates in Ireland, actually, Republic and North in June. If you're around in Ireland, and I'll be going on tour in the autumn in the UK. So yeah,
amazing.
Super.
Thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure.
Great.
Yeah.
It's been really funny. Good impressions. I love it.
Thank you very much.
Ed, always a pleasure. Never a chore.
Thank you for having me.
Ava,
We meet again.
thanks for listening. We will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.